He was screwed out. I keep God, motherfucking, God damn it. Oh, God, shut up. He was screwed. Orange Cassidy had it in the bag, and MJF and Miro screwed him out of it. Oh, my God. Oh. This is Andy Perez with 411mania.com, and you are watching Dissecting Dynamite, and tonight was a big show. But whenever you say every show is a big show, how do you know what big show was actually the big show? You know, and by the way, have you seen the Big Show starring Big Show on Netflix? It's pretty bad, but nonetheless, before we get started, gotta calm down, and you have to make sure that you like, that you subscribe, and that you leave a comment down in the chat. Tell us what you thought about this week's episode of Dynamite, and most importantly, make sure you share this video across the interwebs so that other wrestling fans can also do the same and let us know what they thought about Dynamite and join in on the discussion. Speaking on joining in on the discussion, later on in the show, we'll have a 411 veteran, that is Mr. Tony Acero, join us with his hot takes. He's actually wrapping up the 411 Mania's live coverage of Dynamite right now, so he'll be coming on in just a bit. But until then, we have a lot to catch up on, and most recently and most prominently, the AEW World Champion and supposed best in the world, Kenny Omega, appeared on Impact last night with Don Callis. I'm sorry we weren't here to cover it live directly afterwards, but we're here to do it right here, right now at Dissecting Dynamite. And apparently we set some records with Kenny Omega on Twitch. Usually Impact averages around a little under 1,000 Twitch viewers each week, whereas last night's episode, when Kenny was there, it peaked around like 53,000 viewers or something crazy like that. So taking their usual Twitch numbers and multiplying it basically by like 60 from what I understand. So yeah, Omega making some big splashes over at Impact, and what he was speaking of excited a lot of people too. When I was here last week with Blake Lovell talking about potentially what would come out of the major controversy that ended last week's Dynamite, Blake brought up what about the potential of Kenny Omega being a traveling champion? What if Kenny Omega is out here to take down every single promotion's number one man until he has an infinity gauntlet of sorts with every title belt just right there, just full power in the wrestling industry. What do you think about this scenario? Kenny Omega is out there hunting for gold. He is a gold collector. He already has the AEW World Title. He already has some gold over in AAA, and he has other promotions. He has a sight set on other promotions as well. Gave a little bit of a shout out to Rich Swann in his promo last night with Don Callis. But yeah, very exciting thing. And even though Kenny Omega isn't privy to the 50-50 style booking that we often see in WWE, he's going to be able to do some 50-50 booking on his own if he does complete that infinity gauntlet of wrestling titles. He'd be able to do it with a snap of his fingers too. But get it. I hope you guys appreciate that. Just like that. And speaking of snap of your fingers, it looks like we have Mr. Tony Acero here. Tony, are you ready to come on in? All right, so let's go ahead and bring Mr. Tony Acero in. You know him, you love him, frequent writer and contributor over at 411, and a storytelling extraordinaire, Mr. Tony Acero. Tony, what did you think about tonight's show? Oh, and there he is with the Ricky Starks merch. Ricky Starks cut in a bit of a fire promo tonight. We'll talk about that in a bit. But we have a couple big stories coming into this week. And we have a couple possible payoffs. We had Sting speaking for the first time. We had Kenny Omega addressing the controversy from last week. Did they reach the standards that you set in your mind? What did you think about Sting coming in and speaking to the AEW world? And you guys watching at home, make sure you leave a comment in the chat. Tell us what you guys thought as well. What'd you think, Tony?
You know, Sting is okay. Well, he didn't really say much.
Exactly.
He said a lot, but he didn't say anything. And typically that would upset me from a storytelling standpoint on a television show. Like, you just wasted my time. But it was definitely by design. It was, I think, Sting saying, "I'm just here to have a good time, man." And I think someone's going to be upset about that. Like, no, you're here to take my time away. You can kind of see the nonverbal cues between him and Cody, where Sting is like bringing him in, "Come here, buddy," and Cody's like, "No, this is my show, and what are you doing here?" So it was a nice juxtaposition to see them two. Personally, I'm not a big Sting fan. I never watched WCW. I never watched Sting. I never watched TNA. I stayed away from it like the plague, because it was really bad. I remember Larry would have to like coerce me very strongly to cover an episode, and I knew nobody. I'm like, some guy just did a flying burrito off of the sixth corner of that, pentagon. Like, I didn't know what I was
It can make
doing.
it a bit difficult.
So, yeah, so I didn't really. I don't have that feeling. I liken it to, being in a brand new relationship and you go to a family party of your significant other, and it's the first time ever, so you don't know anybody, and everyone looks like they're having a good time, and some uncle walks in and everyone's like, "Oh, that's Uncle Joe, he's great," and you're just like, I mean, I see it, like I know Uncle Joe is super cool, but give me some time. We're gonna get there together,
Okay.
I mean, I believe we'll get there here. I definitely didn't believe it in the WWE.
Yeah, and definitely
That was rough.
it most definitely was, and apparently that's what influenced his choice to jump to AEW. But nonetheless, yeah, laying some possible storytelling seeds in there, sliding Cody a bit, saying, "Oh, I'm not here for you." Looking up to the rafters at Darby, it's obvious who he's here for, and then a bit of intrigue to the relationship between Cody and Sting at the end of the segment there, with Sting maybe strong arming him in a bit, saying, "I'll see you around, kid." Who knows what that means? All I know is that the intrigue is there, and I'm still reeled in. I'm still anxiously awaiting to see what Sting is going to be doing in AEW, because like you said, he didn't really clue us in very much throughout this promo. So Sting's not showing all of his cards, and then on the other side of the program, we have Mr. Kenny Omega and Mr. Don Callis apparently scheming for the past like 25 years of Kenny Omega's life, saying, "Oh, I've known him since he was 10. Apparently, they have a master plan that culminated this past week on Wednesday. What did you think about Kenny Omega coming out and giving his explanation for what was going on? And were you able to catch him on Impact last night?"
Yeah, he essentially said the same thing from last night, just in a more excited, tone. Kind of a laugh in your face, like, I won one over on you. The promo had its ups and downs. There was times where he contradicted himself, but I think it just, like, the dude's hyped. And he doesn't care what you think. He's not there to give a damn what you think. The only person he had to fool was Moxley, and that's what happened. I feel like I only saw the promo that Omega cut, or the interview on TNA. I didn't watch the entire episode. No one's gonna make me. So but it was a lot of repetition. But at the same time, similar to Sting, that was very much by design. Today's episode, I think, as a whole, with the exception of a couple of different components, was kind of a stalwart, kind of like a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing crazy happened tonight, but it was a nice little fluffer before we get to something else.
Yeah, it was definitely a bit of a come down episode. It's like, we blew our load last week. Now this week, here's a cigarette. Why don't you just lay back, relax, see how everything's unraveling and unrolling. We have TGV back in the chat saying he's surprised that they're surprised that AEW didn't hit 1 million. They don't think that they're going to continue hitting 1 million. At best, thinking that tonight was a 7 out of 10 show. Still a pretty good rating, but still maybe teetering on mediocre. So that seems to have that idea seems to have permeated throughout different viewers. But yeah, you have Kenny Omega here, and whenever there's these like master plan revelations, I always kind of roll my eyes a bit, just because I mean, like very few times do we actually have a master plan unravel in any aspect of life. But being able to have all these intricacies here, and and they had to lose to FTR in order to put Kenny Omega in this position. So whenever there's like a master plan situation, it's always hard for me to buy in it on from a storytelling perspective. But still, it makes Kenny and Don look very smarmy. It makes them look like that they have the power advantage, which is exactly where we need to be. Surprised to not see any of Moxley. No retribution on his end, and no retribution as in the group retribution either. We're thankful for that. But
Yeah.
but going forward from there, how do you see this story with Kenny Omega and Don Callis and Impact and John Moxley and all these elements? Where do you see it leading moving forward? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's what's interesting. That's what I'm enjoying right now. It's very rare that I could just kind of sit back and say, I don't know what's going on. Having done what we do and what I do for, I mean, I've been writing for 411 for 10 years. It blows my mind. So a lot of stuff is relatively formulaic. You can kind of see where things are going and what's going to happen. And I agree with you, basically saying we've been planning this for 25. That's one of those things you make a video package for. Somebody
Right.
saying it is just like, all right, sure, pal. Yeah, so I don't know where they're going. And the more that you and I do this show, the more you'll learn. I'm not a big fan of like fantasy booking. I feel like partially it's because I'm doing their job and I shouldn't be unless I'm getting paid. But
Yeah,
also, I
got to
want
give Tony
them
that
to
money. What are you guys doing? We have a creative
give me that
genius sitting
con
right
money.
here, and you guys are just wasting him. But Tony, maybe give us a little bit of that magic, just a little bit. Let's hear it.
Yeah, well, okay, so this you're enveloping you're flipping the wrestling world on its head, and you're sticking the middle finger to the one program that's like, we do not do that. In fact, if I fire someone, they can't compete for 90 days. Like I am, that is the antithesis of what wrestling is. And you have old timers like Schiavone and JR really, really hammering that home. Like, you are messing up wrestling tradition. And I
Hmm.
really like those two voices being the people that the detractors from this. There's no like just cause for it. There's no reason for Omega and Callis to be doing this, and they're mad and they're pissed. Those are the traditionalists that will speak for the older heads, and it makes Omega and Dawn like even more smarmy than they would be. So you talk about Omega, on this constant hunt for gold. I don't want to see unification of titles. I don't want to see the brands like melding together. I like them as they're two separate entities. I wouldn't mind seeing Omega, I wouldn't mind seeing that, both titles. But at the end of the day, what you'll do is invariably one company will have to be better than the other. And I don't know
Hmm.
how you write yourself out of that hole. Same thing with the invasion, at a much lesser degree, higher degree in stakes, but lesser degree in creative, because that was horrible. But eventually, one is going to have to come out on top. And who do you hurt in doing so?
Exactly, and from what we've been reading, it looks like they may not teeter into the full on invasion angle. Yeah, we had the slight tease with Kenny Omega saying, "Oh, Impact has a good looking championship," and then we had Rich Swann trying to get out of the building, being blocked by Kenny's security and whatnot last night. So yeah, there's some seeds being planted there, but whether or not it's a full on invasion angle, and whether or not what company ends up on top, that remains to be seen. But what we did see tonight is we saw a couple tag matches. We saw both the Young Bucks and FTR in action. We saw the Young Bucks pick up a victory against the Hybrid 2, and then we saw FTR pick up a victory against the Varsity Blondes. It seems like it's inevitable that these teams on a one-way ticket to meeting once again. Neither of them are in very heated rivalries at all at the moment. It looks like we're in a bit of a holding pattern between the two teams. Where do you see the Young Bucks and FTR going, and what did you think about these two tag matches?
So the Young Bucks, they're, speaking of which, you pointed it out earlier, going to be checking this out pretty soon. Hopefully have a review on 411mania.com
Make
for
sure you
it.
keep a lookout for that
Um,
one.
Yes. The idea of a Young Bucks match can either turn somebody off or excite somebody completely, and I've found that there's not really a middle ground. They have backed away a little bit, at least in the last month or so, from the whole finisher fest that they're widely known for. Still, there's some moves where you're like, that should have killed the man, and it got a 2 count. Like a pile driver that's assisted from a guy jumping off of a top rope, pushing down all of his, pressure. He should be dead. But at the end of the day, you know what you're getting with the Young Bucks match, so you can't really be upset. They're doing better at selling. They're doing better at selling a story. Promos still need work, But in terms of the match specifically tonight, the only thing that I didn't like, and I didn't dislike it until 2 matches later when I saw the same exact thing happen again and again. The outside, not interference, but inclusion of somebody in the crowd.
Right.
You want to do it as a one-off, all right, that's cool. But they did it, I think, 3 or 4 times today. The 450 splash is a move that I think I don't think you and I can do it.
I've tried on multiple occasions, and I ended up in the hospital. My health insurance didn't really enjoy that one very much.
Yeah, not a 4. I could do like a 90-degree splash, which is basically me falling. But yeah, so I think I saw that move 5 times in the match, and that's a bit excessive, and it kind of takes away from the move. So little things like that bug me. But by and large, you know what you're getting. It's an opening match, so it has a job to do, and it did its job. It got me hyped for the show. The crowd was hot, and it's not even a full crowd, but you felt the energy. And I think that's what that plan was. As far as FTR, Dax is a beast, man. I just love watching him. Everything he does is so crisp, and it's like everything he does is breaking a board over his knee. Like every single move is just so like succinct, and like it's great. The little things, they all matter. But again, even in that match, someone from the outside interfered a little bit. So match-wise, I think they both did great. I love the slow burn with everything except for Retribution. I think it works. So, Cash being backstage saying it was totally my fault. The emotions got the best of me. It will never happen again. That's believable. And they called him out he called himself out on it. It makes sense. And if we're going to get this inevitable clash, I think I'm all for it.
As am I, especially after their first clash between FTR and the Young Bucks. I'm anxiously awaiting that return match, because I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll be just as good, if not better. We have Jonas in the chat saying maybe FTR versus Jurassic Express. Yeah, we got a little hint of that with that slight outside interference after the match, as you were speaking. But speaking on tag matches, but before that, it looks like back in the chat we have a couple more people, Chairshot and then TGV again, just saying that similar to us, they don't see a full invasion angle going on. Maybe the Good Brothers getting involved, maybe tag champs winning over AEW, and TJV saying maybe it'll be something similar to how Ring of Honor and New Japan interact, the type of super shows like one-offs and things of that nature, which I could definitely see going on. Speaking of moving forward, we have Lance Archer and the Lucha Bros versus Eddie Kingston and Butcher and the Blade. I don't know about you, but Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer, this is a feud of two very hard-hitting men, two very, very angry men that I am looking forward to see it continuously develop. But like you said previously, this match once again had a bit of outside interference, had a bit of funny business there. And then, of course, we had Pentagon being eliminated from the match very early on with that table spot. Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer. What are your thoughts on these two men going at it?
Yeah, they're gonna tear each other apart. I think
limb from limb.
You're in a very scary position with Kingston right now. He's taking a lot of losses, and his talking game, he can save himself. He can pull himself out of that hole if he gets pushed into it. But people may not be interested if the words don't match the actions. And I think he's in that little area where if he loses again, or if he doesn't win a big feud or destroy somebody or beat someone's ass, he might lose it. Archer is Archer. I feel iffy seeing him team up with people but I think that's a personal thing. That's something that like, oh, I wouldn't do.
And
But
thankfully, it seemed like they addressed that a little bit on commentary. They showed that he was
yeah,
uncomfortable, didn't really know how to operate within a tag match. But I'm on the same page as you. I want to see him just he and Jake Roberts it's an oxymoron, but a solo duo right there.
yeah. Yeah, Archer's great, and he showed some skills tonight for a big guy, and just basically demolishing everybody, but still letting everyone else get their stuff in. I think it was a really good match. I enjoyed it. I feel bad for Penta, but yeah, again with the outside, swipe from somebody that I don't watch Dark. I don't know if he showed up there. I know who Solo is. I've the indie scene in California. I'm very well versed in it, so I know this guy. Aside from the fact that Bailey, they're just it was kind of a weird one. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, the stories. Somebody in the crowd tries to interfere, they get their asses beat. They're so seeing it so many times, and then commentary just kind of being so flippant about it. It's like, all right, are you guys gonna do anything about that, or is that your go-to for a new storyline? And if that's the go-to, that's fine, but don't use it so often.
Exactly, and I also thought this match had kind of an awkward ending out of nowhere as well, and I felt the same way about Dustin versus 10. Kind of just a very awkward short match. I don't want to give anything away, but I think Dustin versus 10 was probably my Dynamite dud of the week. Let me go ahead and pull up that little graphic so that we can make it serious. There we go. I thought it was my Dynamite dud of the week. But yeah, very awkward match. And then the storyline that led into it afterwards was Dustin possibly joining the Dark Order, which I'm just not interested in it. That's the thing. I don't know where you stand on it, but this match just didn't really do anything for me.
I think this whole match was just so that they can make that 7 joke.
Yeah. If that was the end goal, then I guess they accomplished it, and who am I to judge?
Mission accomplished.
Exactly. But the big story of the night, the ongoing story of the night, was what was going on with the Inner Circle. We had the ultimatum at the top of the second hour of the show, and then we had MJF and Orange Cassidy closing out the show. You guys watching at home, I want you guys to know, or I want you guys to let us know what you think about the whole Inner Circle situation. And Tony, what did you think about how this all transpired tonight?
It's interesting to see like Jericho and the Inner Circle act as if they are like this they take over AEW. They are AEW, and it just makes so much sense with their personality. And then you see them kind of crumble and Jericho try to save it. I mean, there's an inevitability here that they're gonna break up or something's gonna happen. And I think some people were waiting for something to happen tonight, but like I said earlier, this was one of those shows that was kind of a placeholder. Mm-hmm. It got things moving forward, but didn't do anything drastic. I enjoy their interactions. I thought the ultimatum promo from everybody, I thought that was great. Even Ortiz basically saying that, you're growing on me. I don't like you, but we're getting there. And then Hager and Wardlow like saying that they could stop staring whenever they want, but they keep staring. Sammy just trying to be the only voice of reason, which is weird because it's Sammy.
Right. Yeah.
Jericho saying Santana doesn't even want to show up. And calling everybody out, being like, "Dude, we watched the show. We know what happened." Like, like those little things are very important. And MJF still thinking he's got the one up on everyone, and he kind of does. Like Ortiz, like Jericho chose him, and we have to deal with what we're dealt with, and that's it.
Yeah, and I feel like as long as he remains in the Inner Circle, he has the upper hand there because he's in the position that he wants to be. We saw it when he first defeated Jericho at Full Gear. As he was exiting the ring, he gave a knowing wink to the camera, and everything that has rolled out since then. I mean, I know not even 20 minutes ago I said I'm not a fan of the big master plans, but if anybody can complete a master plan, it's MJF, and it seems like he's doing so. Jonas back in the chat saying it was really nice that Jericho acknowledged reality that he watched Dynamite, and I know you brought that up as well. That was my favorite part of that whole promo. catching MJF red-handed. And it's amazing that even if you put MJF in that position, the way he was able to weasel out of it, deflect any admonishment.
Just wiping his brow. That's
exactly. And then
it's hot in Florida.
And then MJF, I'm sorry, screwing Orange Cassidy at the end of the night as well. That whole situation, Miro coming out and looking like an absolute monster. AEW is always really good with these intertwining storylines. We have all of the inner circle stuff going on, and while we think that may be the crutch that MJF falls on, that may either in the match in his favor or otherwise, all of a sudden this other storyline that's been put on the back burner for a couple weeks comes rushing back in, with Miro coming in and costing him the victory. There's been a lot of controversy over Miro as of late and how he's been represented in AEW. I know we've probably talked about it before, you and I, on your first appearance on Dissecting Dynamite. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Miro right now?
The last, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 3, a beast. This is, I mean, it's hard to say this is what they should have done, because one can't truly retcon what's happened and then not feel the same with what we've seen right now. Because it's like this someone lit a fire up under his ass, and it's not about video games anymore. He's just pissed. He's just super mad. So seeing him just destroy people, like he's doing security, stagehands, production crews, random bald people, Miro is crazy, and all while wearing Versace. Like, the dude is a beast. So that's what I expected when he first debuted. And then they put him in an actual match where there was some sloppiness and it just didn't really turn out well. So I'm willing to forgive them, because tonight, and I think last week or the week before, last week, yeah, he's just been destroying people. It's been great. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Most definitely. I'm right there with you. And we have friend of the show, Blake Level, in the chat this week, forecasting the real main event of Dissecting Dynamite. Yes, we had Sting speak. We had Kenny Omega out there. We had the Dynamite Diamond ring being put on the line. But the real main event, we have Shaq in AEW getting a drink poured on him by Brandy. Oh, gosh. I am just not... Okay. I'm going to cut a promo on Shaq. How's that sound?
All right.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Smell the ratings.
Shaquille O'Neal. You're sitting there on my favorite program, AEW Dynamite, and you think you have the gall to insult Brandy Rhodes? To insult Brandy Rhodes, the Nightmare Queen, the American Queen? Well, let me tell you something, Shaq. By the time I'm done with you, you're not going to be 7 foot tall. You're going to be a small, small man. I'm going to yell at you and insult you and bully you like you're Pennywise. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I didn't like it. I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go, but these celebrity angles, for some reason, they just never hold my attention very well. Before we head into our superlatives, what did you think about Shaq before we head in towards the end of the show?
It seems like they had a plan of some sort of Cody versus Shaq thing, and it didn't exactly pan out, but they still had Shaq, so they may as well turn this into some women feud, and I think that's what they've done. I'm not interested. I think that Jade, I recall her being in the crowd, and everybody that reads the Raw report really, really being intrigued by that tall blonde chick who just looks like she can break every bone in your body. I was not. And then I saw her cut that horrible promo, and I was even less interested. Just a run-of-the-mill heel that just doesn't do much for me. And Brandy, again, I don't know Brandy the person, okay? But everything that we've seen leading up to this point does not equate to the vernacular and attitude that she had when Jade first attacked her. So it came off a little jarring. Mm-hmm. Now, if that's her moving forward, and if that's really her, more power to you. It's just not the character that we've seen, so it's somewhat inconsistent. And then tonight, it was just a weird, you know the movie Elf, where basically Will Ferrell's huge and everyone's small, but they filmed that in like a pre-interview. Like, he looked like an elf, and Shaq was Will Ferrell. Like it looked weird, and I know it was all perspective and the way it was filmed, but man, that was unintentionally funny. Shaq getting water thrown in his face, and then that face that he gave afterwards, which is comedic. And then I don't know who's the heel here, and I know that's like traditionalist questioning of wrestling, like who's the face and who's the heel, but aren't we supposed to be cheering for Brandy? And I don't think many people would, seeing that she's just going to throw water in his face. Even though it's funny, it's like you should go watch Jade, who's given us no proof that she could do anything other than stand tall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I don't know. It was just a weird No, I don't have any interest in it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Brandy's going to learn from Jade, but that remains to be seen. What else remains to be seen is your dud of the week. Is it safe to say that it was the whole Shaq scenario, or am I putting words in your mouth?
I'm pretty sure it's the Shaqs. Yeah, I'd go with that.
Okay, and on the other side of things, what was your favorite moment of the week? We're talking about the Dynamite Diamond a lot this week. What was your Dynamite Diamond of the week? And at home, I want you guys to answer that as well.
It wasn't my boy losing. Damn near cried. I'm glad
it was surely heartbreaking. Did you still give it 5 stars in the 411 Mania rundown of Dynamite?
4.5.
4.5.
You know, whenever he loses, it just kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth. I enjoyed it's very little, but I enjoyed the Inner Circle segment. I think that they touched on things that you don't typically see in wrestling, from being self-aware, saying, you know, we watch the show, we know what's going on. And Hager and Wardlow, I don't know why, but that just cracked me up. I could stop staring whenever I want, and they just keep staring at him.
For me, I'd say my diamond of the week was just the visual of Kenny Omega coming out of that helicopter, with the dope looking blazer, with those with the wonderful glasses. Just a good visual, and that's a champion that I want to see on my programming. And then from there, who would you say walks away with the wrestler of the week this week? Who showed us what they have?
Man, you know, the person that did it wasn't even in a match. Miro, for sure. The dude just came out like his yellow hair turned red. Like he was just a ball of fire. And again, he did that all in Versace. Like that's just
talent. What a boss. But yeah, that was this week. But next week we have quite a card. We have Private Party and Matt Hardy versus Adam Page and the Dark Order. We have Cody versus Angelico. We have the Acclaimed versus SCU, and then we have Serena Deeb and Big Swole in action as well. And of course, we're most likely going to be following up on the Sting situation as well as the Kenny Omega situation. But Tony, before we say goodbye, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Just keep visiting 411. I'm there every week, Monday and Wednesday. I am working on some stuff, but I'll let everyone know probably the next time we do this, give them a little more information. Other than that, without going too long-winded, a lot of people are stuck at home right now, so just stay sane. Watch stuff like this channel. Look up videos, make your own video. I mean, start a podcast. You have 0 listeners. Who cares? At least you're putting something out there, and just like get through it. Because man, times are tough. I mean, personally, I'm doing fine, but I know a lot of people that that are struggling. So just like if anyone listening is having one of those like days or moments, as a wrestling fan, just know that we have so much content at our fingertips, and if you're stuck at home, just so much stuff to watch. Just spend $10.
And speaking of content, we have even more content coming at you guys right here on the 411 Mania YouTube channel. This Saturday, we have a blockbuster of a mini documentary being released about the birthday boy today, Mr. Kurt Angle. We made a documentary about Kurt Angle's 2006 release from WWE. And on this documentary, we have Dave Meltzer giving exclusive opinions. We have Chris Van Vliet. We have Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret. We have Ross Tweedle with Cultaholic. So we have everybody there. Make sure you guys go watch that when it premieres right here at the 411 Mania YouTube channel on Saturday, and that's Saturday at noon Central Standard Time. So make sure you guys go and watch that. Otherwise, like Tony was saying, make sure you guys stay safe. Make sure you guys stay sane. And next week, I hear we have a very special guest host. I hear Santa Claus is hosting Dissecting Dynamite next week. So make sure you guys stop by to see the Jolly Fat Man give his thoughts on AEW. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful night.